How will Pakistan deal with growing security challenges in the southwestern province of Balochistan? Another coordinated attack by separatists has killed dozens of people. Many ethnic Baloch have long complained of neglect and oppression by Islamabad. So what will it take to end the cycle of violence there? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the programme. I'm Maleen, Saeed. It's called Pakistan's Forgotten War, and it's been running for decades in Balochistan, the country's largest province by land area. Another wave of violence this week has claimed the lives of more than 100 people. The Balochistan Liberation Army, also known as the BLA, has claimed responsibility for the attacks, described as the deadliest so far. The BLA has escalated its attacks in recent years, saying it's fighting for an independent Balochistan. In Islamabad, the government accuses what it calls its enemies for the violence carried out by armed separatists. We will discuss this complex situation in Balochistan with our guests in just a moment, but first, Imogen Kimber has this report.
The aftermath of one of the many coordinated attacks across Balochistan province in Pakistan on Saturday. Dozens of people were killed, along with military personnel. Targets included a prison, police stations and government buildings. Nearly 100 members of the separatist group, which claimed responsibility for the attack, were also killed in fighting with security forces. The Balochistan Liberation Army, or BLA, operate not just from within Balochistan province, but from Baloch areas in southern Afghanistan and southeastern Iran, carrying out attacks in southwestern Pakistan. They want an end to governance from Islamabad and an independent state for the ethnic Baloch people. Despite being rich in resources and its strategic location, the province is the poorest in Pakistan. Apart from government and security facilities, the group has also targeted projects funded by China. In 2025, they hijacked a train, taking hundreds of people hostage. Dozens were killed. The BLA are designated as a terrorist group by the US, China, the UK, the EU and Pakistan. Pakistan has accused India of backing the BLA for many years, but New Delhi has denied this. The Chief Minister of Balochistan has vowed revenge for this attack.
We will avenge each and every attack that you have suffered. Keep your morale high. We will not spare the attackers.
The minister says additional attacks were stopped, and around 70 fighters were killed in 2 operations in the days before the attack, and more than 700 over the past year. Yet the decades-long fight of the separatists shows no signs of stopping. Imogen Kimber, Al Jazeera for Inside Story.
OK, let's bring in our guest. From Islamabad is Raashid Wali Janjua, former Brigadier in Pakistan's army and Director of Research at the Islamabad Policy Research Institute. From Quetta, Balochistan province in Pakistan is Sanaullah Baloch, a leader from the Balochistan National Party. And finally from London, we have Ayesha Siddiqa, Senior Research Fellow at the Department of Defence Studies at King's College London. Many thanks to all of you for joining the programme. Ayesha, if I could start with you. Looking at the size and sophistication of the recent attacks, the BLA appear to have transformed themselves from what was once a tribal militia into a professional fighting force. Would you agree with that assessment? And if so, how did that happen?
Well, BLA's rise has been very visible, especially in the last 10 years. And it's not just because it is a military development, because it's also the peculiar political development in Balochistan. The more suppression that the state has used, the more disappointed the people have got. I mean, what is very peculiar about these attacks, recent attacks, is the kind of support they've got from the people. That is significant. I mean, for them, for BLA, recruitment no longer is a problem. And they have expanded their influence. This is where we stand today.
If I could come to you, Raashid, I don't think you would argue with the fact that insurgency is now geographically bigger than it ever was, more sophisticated than it ever was. Recruitment is clearly not a problem. Is this down to the current strategy of using force by the government? Is that now failing rather than focusing on dialogue?
No, I don't agree with this formulation. I think it's an externally abetted insurgency, and the BLA activists, whom we now call Fitnatul Hindustan, those are acting as the proxies of Indians, and they have no shortage of arms, no shortage of the equipment. And you can see a terrorist who is equipped with M16 and laser-guided aiming systems, night vision goggles, which cost millions. And from where are they getting this money? I think there is a whole trail of, proxy warfare, organized crime, and
Raashid, if I could interrupt you briefly, what we are seeing now is a movement that is recruiting educated middle-class professionals, engineers, students, even doctors and teachers from within the Balochistan region. How do you explain that? If you keep pointing the finger to India, why are they recruiting people from within the state?
You see, they have been exploiting in the past. There were certain ungoverned spaces, and the sanctuaries in Afghanistan, they provide a safe haven to them. Then, prior to our interaction with Iran, there was a whole network operating from Chabahar, which was being run by RAW. I agree that there are educated people who are getting on the bandwagon, and the inducements are there, of course. The negative indoctrination is there, and there are always people who are more vulnerable to such blandishments, such blackmails, and such coercion. I agree that some have been weaned towards the insurgents' cause, but these are the numbers are not that much. Primarily, the bulk of the population is with Pakistan and Pakistan's armed forces, and they have not been won over by the poisonous propaganda of BLA. It is the continual external support that is sustaining this insurgency.
If I could let Sanaullah respond to that. So the government says, Sanaullah, that India is the problem. India is funding the BLA. All its problems are external. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, we have to understand the genesis of the Balochistan crisis and the conflict itself. Without understanding the conflict, crisis, and the 75 history of Baloch-Pakistan relation, it's going to be very difficult, because it's not just yesterday's events what triggered this discussion. There are historical, political, economic extraction, underdevelopment, and more recently, the governance crisis that has led to Balochistan to this level of scenario, this level of situation where BLA as a one actor sorted to the political violence, because overall the people of Balochistan are unhappy with the way Islamabad is treating Balochistan. Balochistan, if you, for your international audience, would like to explain it, it's a region with comparable human development index with South Sudan, which is lowest in the world, and comparable human development indicators with Central African Republic. Lowest level of underdevelopment, no infrastructure, no access to electricity, no access to gas, which we have been producing since 1955. The Pakistan entire industry, its electricity, its infrastructure, its economy, what we see today, is because of the Balochistan natural resources. The people have been deprived, and unfortunately, at the federal government level, there's a total denial, ignorance, and that ignorance has created this level of, like what Aisha said, that there's no recruitment problem. People are dissatisfied. People have great grievances against the federal government, the way the colonial style approach to deal with the Balochistan crisis. So without understanding that, it's going to be difficult to understand the overall conflict. It's what they call it, it's expansion. More recently, it happened. And the Pakistan and the federal government, along with the respectfully disagree with the Brigadier Saab. They have to understand all these. Outside, because the Islamabad itself has created an injustice society, and that unjust society has created a political vacuum.
Okay, let me turn to Ayesha. Ayesha, does Sanaullah make a valid point here? Because you often have the government framing this as a security problem. But when you bring in the historical grievances and the identity problems, how crucial is that to understanding why this insurgency is going on?
You know, firstly, with the recent attacks, it needs to be understood that it is an intelligence failure. I mean, if the government is so arrogant and the state is so arrogant and feels that it controls, that the bulk of the Baloch are actually with the government, then how come this, military failure, intelligence failure? 37 attacks, north, south, east, west, all of Balochistan has been attacked. In fact, Quetta, which is the main central city, the militants have penetrated, Quetta city. And in fact, Quetta cantonment had to be sealed to secure it. Now, the problem is that, yes, I agree with where the point which Sanaullah is making. I'll give you another example. China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which when signed in 2016 was meant to be a game changer. Balochistan had 7% share in it, out of which only $200 million were actually invested in Balochistan. Pakistan's industry, bulk of it, which is based in Punjab, natural gas is taken from Balochistan and subsidized for private sector in Punjab. So it's trillions of rupees which is taken from Balochistan and invested there. So the grievances are certainly there. And what you have, on the other hand, is a military and a state which is arrogant, which thinks that it can bring modernity and it can tame people without creating opportunities with them. And lastly, let me say that there has been failure of the state to engage in a dialogue. There is the Baloch Jagjati Committee, BYC, which is asking for constitutional right of the Baloch to be tried in courts. I mean, their argument is, if we are involved in insurgency, if there are militancy, if there are terrorists from amongst us, try us in the courts. Don't make them disappear. Don't abduct them.
Okay.
So there is a parapolitical movement.
Ayesha, you raise a number of good points. If I could come to you, Raashid. Let's start with the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, also known as CPEC. We have seen an investment initiative worth billions of dollars by China in this particular part of Pakistan. Why is it that the locals are not seeing any of the benefits? Where are the jobs? Why are they not involved in what is going on there?
You see, I don't agree with most of the arguments adduced by my respected panelists. You see, it's very fashionable to lay all blame on state and raise the bogey of grievances. Now, state has done its best to assuage the grievances, and the present development spending 3 to 4 billion rupees in every district purely on merit. That shows the public goods and the service delivery that is being provided. That's not the issue. I can show you much deprived areas and areas which are as low on HDI in other parts of Pakistan. But do they take up the arms against the state?
Okay.
It's a dangerous, poisonous creed, ideology that drives such a thought process, that recourse to violence is a political right. So that's the fallacy. We need to disabuse ourselves of certain fallacies.
Respond. If I could let Sanaullah respond to that. Sanaullah, so you heard it there, Raashid saying the state is doing its best in Balochistan. Why has this issue of CPEC become such a divisive issue in Balochistan?
Well, the people of Balochistan love development. They are a very progressive people. When in 1948 they joined the accession document with Pakistan, there were promises made to them that the region will get equal and just benefit from this newly established nation state that's called Pakistan. But unfortunately, since 1948, we have multiple 5-year development plans. In all those plans, Balochistan was deliberately kept underdeveloped. Balochistan was kept deliberately deprived from such development processes because Balochistan has been weighted in the Pakistani framework, in the Pakistani political representative framework, based on its the parameter is population. So Baloch people definitely they are not in many in terms of numbers. They are 6 to 7% of the country's Pakistan's population. During the CPEC project, Baloch people have justly asked and demanded that since Balochistan has been deliberately kept under development, so whatever development is coming, Balochistan and even rest of the Pakistan, because we have a western rim that's undeveloped, including some parts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, they should get priority. But unfortunately, if you see on their website, all these projects of $25 billion crisscross only central Punjab and some parts of Sindh. The transmission lines, power projects, energy projects, Orange Metro line, railway lines. In Balochistan only received one Gwadar port initiative, that's around 700 million something. That's because Balochistan itself is lost.
Raashid, how would you
respond? On the rest
respond?
of the development projects, Balochistan was, and out of that, whatever they produce from that energy, from the power plants, Balochistan is not getting a single megawatt of electricity. Balochistan did not receive a single kilometer of transmission lines, did not get a single kilometer of motorway or highway. So we are ready to answer these all. Balochistan has never received what my Brigadier Saab mentioned, that Balochistan has received 3 to 4 billion each district. Such type of fancy claims have been in the past, but let's discuss and debate the real issue of the Balochistan. If the Pakistani Federation and the sensible people are willing to address these issues, so they have to accept that there has been mistakes, there has been a approach. The approach has been like not fair and justful towards Balochistan.
Ayesha, I saw you nodding your head there.
Yeah, see,
because I think
we have to take things in their proper perspective.
Okay, let Raashid
spending of CPEC. Are you asking me?
Okay, Raashid, finish your thought, and then I'll come back to you, Ayesha.
Okay, so I was saying that we have to see things in their true perspective. CPEC first phase was infrastructure, and in that there is a prong on from Zob, Mogalkot, Quetta. There are proper roads that have been constructed. There have been infrastructure projects. I don't know how Sanaullah Baloch Sahib is saying that nothing has been spent. I can count a number of projects from CPEC which have benefited Balochistan. Gwadar itself has the potential to change the whole complexion of the province. But the issue is that CPEC Phase 2, which comprised special economic zones, is still not taken off the ground because of this security situation. And there are forces inimical to CPEC which do not wish CPEC to become a success. And those forces have put in their best to give a shot in the arm to this insurgency. Development, if we keep talking of the past and we keep quoting the figures which are outdated, I think we'll go nowhere.
Ayesha,
In the past,
Ayesha, how do you respond to that?
But now a lot has been done.
Ayesha, how do you respond to that? Is Raashid right there? Are the Baluchis spending too much time looking to the past, or do they now need to look forward?
The thing is that retired Brigadier probably needs to read some history and understand. History can't be wished away. It's not just about Baloch wanting to separate from Pakistan. There were separatist movements in other parts of Pakistan as well. And, which were there. And the bulk of the people engaged with the Pakistani state. That was happening. But things started to turn. Firstly, when the state with the military assassinated Nawab Akbar Bukti, and suddenly it was a shock to the people that, a leader, a political leader who was part of the elite and who had always talked to the Pakistani state could be killed, then what are the possibilities for others? And this is a myth, which is the state and, people supporting the state have created for themselves, that everything is, equally distributed amongst Balochistan and the rest of Pakistan. I think it's important to understand also, and for your audience, that Balochistan territorially is Pakistan's largest province. Of course, it has lesser population, but the development that it deserved and it doesn't get. And the other thing is that now the insurgency we're talking about, it's no longer controlled by the tribal leaders. It's middle-class Baloch who has been tortured, who has been picked up. I mean, Dr. Ala Nazar or Bashir Zaib and others, I am not sympathetic to the tactics, but the problem is that how can you engage with them in a conversation? There is a parallel economy of conflict which supports and which helps people who have been running the Balochistan province on behalf of the government. I mean, here are people who don't want any political dialogue, people in charge, like the Chief Minister Sarfaraz Bukti, or Anwarul Haq Kakar, who was caretaker prime minister. I mean, these are people and many others, this gang, which benefits from conflict, economy of conflict, rather than economy of dialogue and economy of peace. And this is where the problem lies, which actually makes people more upset. And it completely drains away any faith in dialogue. So it's not just history. It's a complex problem in which history has a part, but we also have to look at how disappointment has gradually, set in the people. One last point, which I think it's important to make, and the dear Brigadier might think about it. When women become part of the insurgency, women have become, there are women who have become suicide bombers, there are women who were in the recent attack, there are women who were participating in it. When do women actually participate in violence? When do they become active players? When they're so disappointed and when they suffer so much. There have been families and families and families, women, their sisters, wives, daughters, mothers, who have lost their loved ones, and there is no recourse to justice. And it's this desperation which is egging people on towards violence.
Sanaullah, if I could come back to you on Ayesha's point. She talks about the economy of conflict and how that is a cycle of violence. When you look at the BLA's tactics, which now include suicide bombings and attacks on civilians, at what point does armed resistance risk alienating the very population it claims to represent?
Well, first of all, Melina, we don't endorse any political violence, and we don't endorse any violence or political violence, both from the state and the non-state actors. But unfortunately, Balochistan has plunged into a crisis, into a conflict since last 25 years. Like Aisha mentioned, the conflict itself started in 2002. And I was part and parcel of the parliamentary committee on Balochistan. The Nawab Akbar Khan Bukti himself was martyred in 2006. We were very much interested and encouraged that the federal government should understand and realize the depth of the Balochistan conflict and the crisis itself to resolve it. There were certain recommendations as well. So today, definitely, when Nawab Akbar Khan Bukti was killed, most of the Baloch leadership was put behind the bars. All of us left Pakistan into exile. Because the governance system itself in the province is so polluted, manipulated, and engineered that the Janjua political parties are unable to participate in the political process or become part of the political process. So the youth is left in dilemma. So the 62% of Balochistan youth is definitely now desperate to join a political struggle. Since the government of Pakistan is not allowing genuine political process within the province, so what is left for the youth? What is left for the girls? What is left for the deprived society? So 62% of the youth, somehow, they are inclined to political violence. And I think Islamabad is blamed for this. Balochistan, people of Balochistan have tried their best in last 75 years, many times, to give this a clear understanding and message Pakistan to don't waste based on our population. Balochistan has a very important geopolitical position in this region. Balochistan has economic potential. Balochistan was part and parcel of Pakistan, not based on population. Balochistan was given a lot of promises by the Muhammad Ali Jinnah, by the creators, what they call it, the forefather of Pakistan. So unfortunately, currently the Balochistan is looked at, they don't have any conflict resolution approach. They are not willing to mediate it. They don't allow internationally and national actors to talk about the rule of law. And more importantly, what has gone wrong in the last 2 years? The political process was engineered at the extreme level.
You've made your point. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, Sanaullah. I just want to give a final question. If I could let you finish off the program, Ayesha, what is the path to peace here? How do we break the cycle of violence?
You have to have dialogue, which is important. And this is what the state does not understand. What I was talking about, the economy of conflict. There are the militants on the one hand, but there are people who run the government on the other, who are actually the beneficiaries of this conflict. And that is also important to look at. They are the people who are probably encouraging other other members of the state not to look at political dialogue. Political dialogue is central. But unfortunately, I think even time has run out of even that, because there is so much of violence there.
And unfortunately, we are out of time for today's programme. But thank you so much to all our guests. We've been listening to Ayesha Siddiqa, Raashid, Waji Janjua and Sanaullah Baloch. And thank you too for watching. You can see the programme again anytime by visiting our website, aljazeera.com. And for further discussion, do check out our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. And of course, you can join the conversation on X. Our handle is AJ Inside Story. From me, Maleen, Saeed, and the whole team here, bye for now.